Well, hello, class of 2021 seniors. This is Mr. Patterson and Mrs. Duenas again,
Hello.
your favorite GLCs. And yes, we know we're the only ones, but as we said before, we like to think of ourselves as the favorites. So here we go, guys and gals. The college application process is upon us. Work for you guys to start doing this summer. This is the College and Career Video Message Series. This is video number 4, the college admissions process, the platforms, meaning the application websites, instructions for the class of 2021. And the big question that we have on the screen is, where do I start? And that's been a big question. So let's jump right into it. Oh, fancy Dan.
Here we go.
All right, college admissions. First of all, just some reminders, please access or download the college admissions process instructions packet that's going to accompany this PowerPoint on the class of 2021 webpage. Just get the guidance on the dime of our webpage, get to the class of 2021 webpage, and you will see the video message series all lined up with links to access the presentation, this item here, but also documents. There is an actual paper document that's going to accompany the PowerPoint slides, and that will have very, very specific information about all the different platforms that can be used for admission. So please take advantage of it. I think every one of your questions will be answered in that packet. And as I mentioned, it's going to be posted to the 2021 webpage. So let's move right into college options with Mrs. Duenas.
All right, guys, so we've talked a little bit about this in the previous video. So really what we want you guys to consider as far as your post-high school options would be college admission to a CSU, to a Cal State University, a UC, University of California. There's several private schools, private colleges and universities, and out-of-state colleges and universities. There's community college, and then you also have the options of trade and technical schools. So we're going to touch a little bit on each of these. We're going to start with the Cal State universities, the CSUs. So it's one online application. It's really nice and seamless in that way that you can log in. There's the website there, and like Mr. Patterson said earlier, we're going to post this online, and so you can actually go to the PowerPoint and click on each of the websites that we're providing to you here. But you'll go to the Cal State Apply website, and the submission period for Cal States is October 1st through November 30th. And what that means for Cal States is that you can log in starting October 1st and start filling out your application, and you can actually start submitting it as early as October 1st through November 30th. So you have that whole window of those 2 months to work on and submit your application for the Cal States. As far as SAT or ACTs for Cal State purposes, they're looking for the SAT reasoning or the ACT exam without writing. Okay, so those are the tests that they are looking for, and they're not taking the writing portion into consideration. So if you know you're only applying to Cal States, you may not have to do the writing portion of the exam. However, as we've talked about in several videos prior to today's video, right now it's a test optional thing, meaning if you don't have a test score and you don't submit a test score to the Cal States, it's not going to hurt your application. They're not going to eliminate you from the application pool. But if you do have a test score, that may help you in a way. So what we are still encouraging you to do is, if you have the opportunity to do a test for the ACT or SAT in the fall, take it if you're able to, because right now they're test optional, but it still might help your cause here. As I said, the writing score is not used in eligibility determination, no essay, no subject tests, okay? For the Cal States, they're not looking for any specific subject tests that are going to help you with any of the majors, and they're not going to require any letters of recommendation or a secondary school report. And those are kind of interchangeable. We'll talk a little bit about those as we get into other schools. And then transcripts for Cal States. They are not going to ask specifically, or there's no blanket asking of transcripts to be sent by a certain date, okay? You guys, we're going to talk about this later again, but you need to be checking your emails in senior year. That is imperative to this college application process. Schools are communicating with you all the time via email. And if a Cal State is going to request a transcript mid-year, they're going to do it via email. So make sure you're checking your email during senior year. And from what we remember, Cal State Fullerton was one of those that was asking for quite a few in the month of January for mid-year transcripts. But again, you don't have to request or submit a transcript unless it is asked for. Okay, California State Universities continued. So they're not looking at your extracurricular activities. We've heard that Cal Poly San Luis Obispo is an exception. Beyond that, they are strictly looking at your GPA, your test scores, okay? And I'll touch on that at the eligibility index down there at the bottom. It's one application that you fill out. It goes to multiple campuses. So you can fill out one application and then check off the box that you want to send it to Fullerton, Cal Poly, Long Beach, San Diego. And it's one application that will go to all of the Cal States that you select. However, you're paying a fee for each campus that you apply to. So keep that in mind. It's not one fee for all of the schools. You're paying a fee for every school that you apply to in that application. There are several impacted campuses, and that's something to think about as well. So we've listed there San Diego State, Cal State LA, Fresno State, San Jose State, Cal State Long Beach, San Luis Obispo, and Fullerton are pretty impacted schools. That link there that gives you PDF form of impacted degrees. So it's really nice grid that will tell you all of the Cal States as well as the majors that they offer and whether or not that major is an impacted major at the school. So something to consider when you're applying to those schools as well. And then the eligibility index. If you Google Cal State eligibility index, they will provide you with a really nice visual there that gives you an explanation of if your GPA is a 3.67, what does your SAT have to be in order to be eligible to apply? So that's kind of a nice thing to look at as well when looking into Cal States.
Now, on the Cal States, oops, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Just a
Go back.
quick couple of things
Yep.
on that, or else I will forget. The eligibility index is kind of a funny thing for our class because of the test optional policy that they implemented with the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's still something probably in a work that's in progress for the Cal States even. They really don't know how that's going to be working. So keep that in mind. And then impacted, what does impacted actually mean? In a very simple definition, it just means that they get more applications every year than they're going to be able to satisfy in certain majors. You know, there's certain majors that are just going to be impacted, meaning they'll get 2,000 applications for 500 spots. That's impacted. It might be a little bit more challenging to get into those campuses and particular majors.
All right. Okay. So continuing on there, what Cal States are looking at, they're looking at your GPA in your A through G courses, okay, and hopefully you all know what those are. We've talked about those every summer with you, that you have completed in grades 10 through 11. So specifically saying those are any of the classes that you took summer after 9th grade and summer before 12th grade. So this would be if you're in summer school this summer, these are the last grades that will go into the GPA that they're looking at. Okay, so GPA for A through G courses in grades 10 through 11. That's what they're looking for. And then we just, we want you to read and study the college application. Oh, I'm sorry, the instruction page that we're doing on the Darn Bar webpage. There's a lot of information on there, guys, but so important, okay? This is a really overwhelming experience. Mr. Patterson, I wish more than anything we could be sitting in our offices with the door open, just allowing you guys to come in and get your questions answered. But the state of the world right now doesn't allow for that, but this is a great resource. If you have questions, there's a good chance that the answer is gonna be in the packet for you. And if not, reach out to us and we'll get back to you. And then the California State ID, some schools have been asking for the California State ID, and we want to clarify that this is not your 6-digit ID that you use on our campus, okay? So if you see somewhere that they're asking for the CSIS, it's on your transcript. So hopefully when we meet this summer, whether it's virtually or in person, we will provide you with a transcript, and you will be able to see on the lower left corner of your transcript, that's where you'll see your state ID, and that is the CSIS, the California State ID.
And then one comment on the GPA, because this is a pretty common question when you ask about the GPA. As Ms. Duane has said, your GPA is in those middle 2 years with the summer before and the summer after. But the common question we get that we don't always address in advance is, well, does 9th and 12th grade count? Do my senior grades count? And keep this in mind, of course they do. If university has, for example, they require 4 years of English to meet the minimum requirement in the English subject area, there's no way for you to have 4 years of English unless they take into account 9th grade English and senior year English. So when you apply to college, you're going to self-report your grades, meaning you're going to have a transcript sitting next to you, and you're going to be putting the grades that you earned in those classes right into your application. That's called self-reporting. And then you're going to put every year's courses down there. They're only going to draw from 10th and 11th grade for GPA, but they're going to look at every year, all 4 years of classes, to make sure they know exactly how many courses you took in the A through Gs. And that includes the courses in 12th grade. They're going to actually call them courses in progress and courses planned. That's going to be first and second semester. So all 4 years. Now, will your senior grades, letter grades actually count? Not in your initial and really your admissions GPA. It's not going to be part of it because you don't have any senior grades established in October, November when you turn these applications in. However, some universities, if you're on the bubble or on the fence of whether they say yes or no to you, they might ask you for your first semester grades to see how serious you really are about going to their college. And they'll look at your senior grades, your first semester possible. Okay?
Okay.
All right, leading right into the University of California. Again, very similar to the Cal State, one application, and you can apply to multiple campuses. And again, you're paying a fee for every campus that you're applying to. The UC application opens August the 1st. All right, that means it's open. You can start working on it. You can start filling it out. And that's a good thing. All right. You don't submit filing period until November, however. So you can work on it starting in August, put it away. It'll save all your data and come back to it. November 1st through 30th is the submission or the filing period. Again, I think we talk about this later on, but please do not wait until the last week of November to do your application. What we are going to be using is the Friday before we go on Thanksgiving break. That's when I want you to have a deadline in your mind. The Friday before we go to Thanksgiving break, have your applications ready to be submitted because everybody's on break Thanksgiving. That's when everybody says, oh, I'll just do it that week. Trust me, the system slows down and we'll have a tendency to bog down and break down, and you don't want to be panicking at the very end. But you see the application link there for the University of California. You'll click on that when you see the actual PowerPoint and you'll be off and running. UCs require essays. They're called personal insight questions. PIQ is a short version of that. You have 8 prompts and you're going to answer 4 of those prompts. All right, we get into that a little bit later. They do look at the SAT reasoning or ACT with writing. Again, test optional with the new policies that they put in place because of COVID-19, but they would look at the SAT or ACT, and they will in the past have looked at the writing. But then again, if you don't submit it, you're not missing a requirement. And subject tests. UCs for the past several years have not required subject tests, but silly UCs, they do recommend it for STEM-related majors. And so with the test optional policies, that's kind of still in place. If you have SAT scores for STEM-related majors, you have an SAT score, subject score for math level 2 and a science, go ahead and submit it. It can only help you in our opinion. Continuing, again, thankfully, no letters of recommendation are required for UC, so you don't have to worry about getting a letter of recommendation, and no secondary school report. As Ms. Duane has said, we'll talk about that a little bit more That's basically the counselor doing a report on your history with us and your academic history. It's not required for the UCs. No transcripts are required for you to send initially. Submit your grades, self-report your grades on the application, and that will suffice. They're going to trust that you're being honest. And if you're not being honest, it will catch up with you. Trust me. So be honest, self-report accurately. We mentioned that there's a fee per campus. And again, in red, I don't know who did this, but man, they're brilliant for reminding you again, please read and study the college application process instructions packet that's on the Diamond Bar webpage. It will alleviate a lot of concern that you have. UC's continued. Again, the GPA process is the same. They established the GPA the same as Cal State's, and that's pretty much predominantly any university in America, the same type of process for developing your admissions GPA. And again, we hit on the California State ID. Don't have to mention that again. The last point is the UC and Cal State application workshop in the fall. We're moving forward as if we're all going to be physically back in school. That's our mindset right now. So we will have a UC and Cal State application workshop in the fall where you can come to the theater and listen to an actual rep from UCs and Cal States to ask questions about the actual application that you're going to be completing. All right, the UC personal insight questions, PIQ. Again, 8 prompts, 8 of them. 4 of them have to be picked by you and 4 of them have to be responded. You write 350 words per prompt. That sounds like a lot, I guess, but it's really not. Once you start writing, you're going to realize, holy moly, how am I going to say everything I want in 350 words? Here are some key things to be very cognizant of. Answer all parts of the question. If you respond to an essay prompt and you leave out an answer to part of the question, that's a big ding on you. That's not a good thing. You want to make sure that you reread your answer, reread the question, and then make sure you answered their question completely, all parts of it. Sometimes there's a 2-part question. So definitely do that. This is your opportunity. The personal insight questions is your opportunity to show them who you are, what you're all about, what makes you tick, what makes you excited about school, and what your future plans are, and so on and so forth. Act like this is your face-to-face interview. Obviously, it's in writing, but this is what you'd want to express to somebody if you're in an interview, like a job interview or an application admissions interview. This is your chance to show them your authentic self and who you are. All 8 questions are equally weighed. Please don't listen to anybody who says, oh, number 4, they look at that much more than number 6. That's a bunch of baloney. That's just a myth. All 8 questions are weighted equally. If you answer the 4 that you want to answer, great. Choose the 4 that best allow you to represent and write about you. There's going to be 4 that hopefully will jump out at you saying, yes, that will help me tell them who I am. And there are no right or wrong answers. All right, don't trust your knucklehead friend says, oh, that's wrong. There's no right or wrong answers if you've done a good job of explaining who you are. Other things with the personal insight, use first-person responses, I and my. This is about you, so respond with the first person. The readers of your insight questions are not grading it like it's a high school essay. They're not looking at it and they're not going to circle a grammar error or a structure error, but very important, don't let grammar errors, spelling errors detract from your message. So when I say they're not grading it for grammar and spelling and structure, that doesn't mean you can write like a knucklehead and just incomplete sentences and grammar errors and spelling errors, because the reader will be bothered by that and they'll say, heck, they're focused on spelling and grammar errors. If there's so many of them, they'll miss the message you're trying to give them. Start early, let it sit and percolate for a while, return to it, read it again, edit it, repeat it. Do it until you feel it's your best work. You have plenty of time to do that. But when should you start working on these? As soon as possible. Just start working on them. If you do it at a leisurely pace, it does not become a stressful situation. 2 great links there for the UCs and personal insight questions. A PowerPoint, I think it is, and then also a YouTube video of kids talking about their experience with the PIQs.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Common Application. So this is going to be utilized for those of you who are applying to lots of private schools and some out-of-state schools. Are you going to use the Common Application? It's an online application like the others that we've talked about. The website is there, commonapp.org. And then we've provided 2 helpful websites that go along with Common App that are going to help in preparing you to fill out that application. So both of those are great resources for you. And what it allows you to do, the Common App, is it allows you to apply to a number of other public or out-of-state universities with one application. So essentially kind of the same concept as the Cal State, you know, all of these Cal States you can apply with this one application, all of the UCs you can apply with the one application. Kind of like that with the Common App. There's a few things that are going to differ from school to school, but for the most part you can access a huge number of schools through this Common App, which is a great tool for you guys going into senior year. Deadlines are going to vary per college. So if you're going to be using the Common App, you guys have to know those deadlines, okay? It's not as broad as saying Cal State's, you know, are closed on the 30th, UCs are closed on the 30th. These application deadlines are going to vary, and we're going to talk about how they're different for different application types. So cost, there's a fee for each college. So just be aware that you're paying a fee for every school that you apply to. And then this will open like the UCs on August 1st. So you can go in and start working on your application as early as August 1st, which is a wonderful thing for you. We're not in school just yet, so you'll have some time to kind of focus on just the applications. And then, like I said, the deadlines will vary from school to school.
And I think on those links, Mrs. Duenas, a couple of those links, or at least one of them, allows you to do some practice or listen to some tutorials and actually see the different sections. We cannot emphasize enough, because many of you are going to be using this Common Application. And this Common Application, Mr. Patterson and Mrs. Duenas are going to be very involved with it, with you. So you got to know your stuff here. You can't, you know, venture into this and not have any background on the Common App. So go through those links, practice on it, and then as you get ready to start filling it out August 1st, and you don't submit right away, you're just working on it, you won't have nearly as many questions.
Right. Oh, this one had a nice little set of graphics.
Fancy.
Down this way. Sorry. Okay. Going on with private and out-of-state schools and the Common Application. So they require an essay answer for 1 of 7 prompts. So you need to do 650 words versus the 350 that we were talking about for the UCs. And then some campuses are also going to ask for a supplemental essay, okay? Letters of recommendation are required in most for the Common App. There's gonna be a few schools in there, as I remember from our last class, that didn't necessarily require a letter of recommendation, but did require a secondary school report. That's why it's so important, you guys, to go in. This one is trickier than the UCs and Cal States, just being that since it's all these different schools that are not necessarily connected in any particular way, their requirements are all going to be a little bit different. So just making sure that you know what's required of you for the specific schools that you're applying to. What essays do I have to answer? Is there a supplemental essay? Do I need letters of recommendation? But they will, like Mr. Patterson said, we are going to be very involved as your counselor, your GLC on campus, in filling out our portion for any of those schools on the Common App. And whether that includes the letter of recommendation, the secondary school report, uploading our school profile to the Common App, sending your transcript mid-year, there's a lot that goes into our participation with the Common App for you as well. And then we've already put the bug in your ear to start talking to teachers about letters of recommendation for those of you who are going to apply to private or out-of-state schools that are going to need a letter of rec. You're going to probably need 1 to 2 teachers to write a letter of recommendation for you. And part of the application there, you need to, well, don't need to, but part of it is signing your waiver. You're waiving your right to view those letters of recommendation. What that does is it shows you have good faith Okay, so when you check that box saying, I waive my right to see the letters of recommendation that are uploaded, it's good faith. It's saying there's nothing to hide. I don't believe that there's going to be anything written here that I shouldn't trust. It's your right. If you don't click that box, just be aware that colleges might may question why you're not waiving your right to view a letter. Yes.
So, two quick comments. I'm so sorry. I'm in
No.
class, Mrs. Duenas, Mary.
Patterson,
On the letters of recommendations, we've each also been asked by several of you, which is great because that means you're listening. You do not need to ask us now for a letter of recommendation, all right? Unless it's for an individual scholarship or something for summer. We know that if you utilize the common application, and that is in video message number 5 coming up in a few days, we're gonna talk to you about the letter of recommendation process. But you don't need to send us a special little email now asking if we'll write a letter of recommendation for you. We obviously will do so. And the great part about this common application is you'll do the application, like Mrs. Duenas said, for the UC, similar to UC and Cal State, like 80% of the application that you're gonna fill out is good for all the schools that you're gonna list on the common application. Now, the supplemental pieces come into each individual campus might have some supplemental parts of the application, but about 80% of the application you do one time, and it's going to count for all the different universities, okay? The essay that you do, the one essay prompt, that's going to be an essay that you write, and it's going to be used for all the campuses you're applying to, all right? So keep in mind when you write that essay and you're applying to 5 private schools, you don't want to mention in that essay, oh, my number 1 choice is XYZ University, because all the other universities are going to be reading that. They might just grant you your wish and not admit you to their school because you wanted to go to XYZ. So don't get specific in that. If a university wants to have more essay questions, that's where the supplemental essay questions come into play. But the one generic one, be very generic of how you're answering it. Don't pinpoint one specific university.
Okay, thank you. And then the mid-year report. So common application, they are going to require that we submit a mid-year report, and that is something that Mr. Patterson and I will work on in the month of January after your transcripts have been updated with your fall semester grades. So we spend a big chunk of time uploading and submitting each one of those. Please trust that we will take care of that for you. And that says on there, the transcript, your GLC will provide that for you on the Common App. There's nearly 900 schools that participate with the Common App. So if a college uses Common App, you use Common App, okay? Sometimes a college will have different platforms to which you can use to apply, but if Common App is one of them, use Common App, okay? That's going to make your life easier, our life easier. You're going to have one platform for a number of schools, and that's a good thing in this application process. Supplemental materials for specific schools, like Mr. Patterson was talking about. Sometimes there's going to be supplemental things in addition to the application that you've already done, and that's going to be for very specific schools. So just making sure that you're staying on top of those things and seeing what's required of you. And then I cannot stress this piece enough. You guys have to invite your recommenders, okay? So just telling Mr. Patterson and I, or telling a teacher on campus, I need you to write a letter for me on Common App, and here's my letter recommendation packet. That's not enough, okay? We cannot access anything about your application until you invite us. So it's imperative that you invite us, and that you invite us with the right email, okay? You need to make sure you're typing in the correct email address on the Common App so that we receive the invite and we now have access to your application and submitting the stuff that we submit for you. Like I said, it's mandatory in order for your GLC and teachers to recommend you. So very, very important that you guys do that prior to giving us the letter recommendation packet. And then the SAT and ACT requirements, they're going to vary by each college and university on the common application. So again, we're urging you to do your research in the schools that you're applying to and figuring out which ones are going to require the SAT, ACT, if they're test optional at this point. And yeah, just encouraging you to do your research on that. So I touched a little bit about this, admission options. So if you were not aware, there are different ways to apply to colleges, or different deadlines that colleges use. So there's rolling admission. So there's a few campuses that use rolling admission. And what that means is they're accepting applications all year long. And then they accept students at different points in the year. There's deadlines, but there's not a hard deadline. If you miss this one, you can go to the next one. There's rolling admission. So basically they're accepting kids all year long. Is there anything that I'm saying wrong about that, Mr. Patterson, for rolling?
No, the nice part about it is you might be able to apply early just through the regular rolling admission, and they might get back to you within 2, 3, 4 weeks and tell you, hey, we're granting you admission, which is a great thing to have in your back pocket, knowing that you've got a school. But there's really no hard deadline. If there is, it's probably towards the very end of our school year in the spring. Sometimes it even goes into July. But again, do your research if it's rolling admission.
Right. And then there's regular admission. That would be like our Cal States and UCs. We know that that's a November 30th deadline. Some schools have a really hard deadline on December 15th, and that's their regular admission deadline. But the two that are going to be, they're going to ruffle feathers here, are going to be your early action and your early decision. So for those kids, early action, EA, how we say it often, is non-binding, okay? So if you apply for early action or early decision, both of those are gonna be early deadlines, okay? So typically they've been November 1st. I'm not sure if any of those are gonna be moved up. But early action means if you get into that school, you can still wait and see from your other schools where you got in, and you can still make a choice. Early decision is binding, meaning I am applying to the school, and if I get in through early decision, I am committed to going to that school. I am dropping all my other applications. I am going to this school specifically. Okay, so early action, non-binding, early decision, binding. Okay, and if you do early decision, you have to sign the early decision agreement, and that is on Common App. You can access that form. But you have to sign an agreement stating that you understand what early decision means. And then restrictive early admission, it may limit your ability to early action at other campuses. And again, there's more information and details about that in the packet that we're putting on our website. So if you're curious to learn more about any of those things, we encourage you to go in and download that packet and learn more about it.
Now, in the application process and instructions packet, there's a very detailed description about each one of these, and it does discuss in detail benefits. What are potential benefits of the different admission platforms? For example, I'll hit on a couple very quickly here. Early action and early decision. Big question is, why would I do that? Well, there could be a strategy there. There could be a higher acceptance rate if you have chosen early action or early decision, because that's telling the university that you've thought it through and you are choosing their school that as one of your top choices. So there could be a little bit of a better acceptance rate, but that's not the only reason to do that. Stay away from that, but there could be a little bit better percentage of admissions. The early decision one is critical. It's your number one choice, only your number one choice. Do not apply to number two choice early decision. The negative of early decision is because it's binding, if you get into number one, you cannot have the opportunity in February, March, and April to shop around and compare financial aid packages that each university might have given to you. You're not going to be able to shop, because if they say early decision yes, you're calling all the other schools and telling them I'm out, I'm going to the dance with my early decision school. Okay?
Okay. Mr. Patterson,
Community
college.
colleges, again, Mrs. Duenas and I have always told you we're very proactive and strong advocates of the community college system for many reasons. For students that maybe struggled in high school and just didn't put the foot on the gas pedal and didn't do as well as they would like to students that were at 4.0s and top-notch students in our school, but they chose to go the community college route for many reasons. Many benefits to it. Cost effective, obviously, could be close to home. You need to grow up a little bit more. Whatever the reason is, community college is a very, very strong option for many of you. 18 years old or high school graduate to get into school, so it's not like it's going to be difficult to get in, all right? They don't require an SAT or ACT for admissions. They will look at course placement is changed over the years. They're going to place you in college courses at the community college based on the classes you did take at the high school level and the grades you earned. They do a questionnaire when you apply, and you put down the courses you've taken, the grades you've earned, and that will help with the placement in what math you should take and what English you should take. So that's why you want to do as well as you can in your senior classes as well, if you're going to community college route as well. Kind of a common mistake sometimes is kids think they got to go to community college and then transfer to a university for 4 more years. It's not that at all. It's year 1 and 2 at the community college, and you're doing the same work that somebody's doing at a UC or a private school. You're taking the same general education requirements, your English, your math, your history, your economics, all those things that a first or second year college student will take. You're taking those at a community college. And then after 2 years, or whatever, let's say you go for 3 years, whatever you do, however long it takes you to complete those 2 years of requirements, you then transfer to the university for year 3 and 4. I mentioned earlier that's very, very cost effective. If you took a full schedule, it would probably cost you under $2,000 for the community college fees, which is excellent. If you do well and you take the right classes, you have priority transfer status to the UCs and Cal States. Whereas opposed to you applying out of high school where the percentages of getting into these schools may be very low, as a junior college transfer, those percentages go up significantly if you do the right work. So that's a good thing. They have an honors transfer program. If you start taking honors classes at the community college, they can help you transfer to UCs and Cal States and other universities. They have many transfer admission guarantees called tags for the UCs. And the timing of this, because we get asked this quite often, hey, don't forget about me, I'm looking at community college. We haven't. The community college application process really doesn't kick into gear until January of your senior year. We'll start mentioning that in December, getting you ready for workshops and whatnot for January for community college. But bottom line is make a plan, have your plan set up. You might have universities that you're applying to, but you might have community college as a backup plan in your back pocket. And then there's a good little link there for the community college system. Trade technical schools, again, it could be a one-year program or it could be a multi-year program. It depends on what you're looking to do. The application procedures for a trade school or a technical school are very unique to each university. So if you're looking to go into like automotive industry, technology, you know, becoming an automotive technician or whatnot, there are universities, technical schools that specialize in that, and they will have their own unique application and requirements to get into that technical school. It's a great way to pursue training in a very specific skill. If you know a skill that you have, you recognize that in the past videos that we've done, and you want to do that, and it doesn't require a university degree to get started in that industry, then a trade school or technical school might be a great way for you to get started. You might realize 4, 5, 6 years down the road after you've been working in that industry, you started at a technical school, you got the credential to start in the field that you want to work in, you work in it for 4 or 5 years, I bet you're going to realize, you know what, I need a little bit more schooling to get my promotion, to get that next step. Several links there, websites that will help you with trade schools and technical schools as well. SAT and ACT, this me?
Yeah.
Yes. Again, unique year for COVID-19, guys and gals. We've talked about that, UCs and Cal States. We did address this topic in a previous video message. Test optional is just that. It's not going to hurt you if the university's test optional. It won't hurt you if you don't take the SAT. You're not going to be missing a requirement. But at the same time, if you submit an SAT or ACT to a test optional university, they could still consider it in the holistic approach to looking at your application. Again, we recommend that you follow through with taking the SAT or ACT if that was your plan. The SATs and the ACTs are back in business now. They're opening up the registration. Right now, you can start registering for those test dates. SAT has an August date. They have a September date that's been added. They have an October date, a November date, and a December date. All right. The only SAT date that does not allow you to do subject test is the September date. That's only for the regular SAT. So you can plan on taking your SATs because many of you thought you'd be done with the SATs right now. You got it done last spring, but with the situation we all went through, you're not done. So no big deal. Everybody's in the same position. Plan when you're going to take those tests in the fall. Get on your College Board account and apply and register for those test dates. And the reason we push the SAT, if you were planning on taking it, if you never know, you might have an out-of-state school, public or private, that does still require the SAT or subject test. You don't want to be without it. So go ahead and follow through with your initial plan if that's what it was to take the SAT. And then check with each university you're looking at to see what their requirements are. And they might require subject tests, they might not, but you need to do your research on each campus. And then verify when you're doing the research, if you're planning on taking the December SAT or ACT, make sure that university will accept that score. And if you are in that position, talk to us. We'll help you make sure the scores get sent in a proper manner. Continue with them. Schools are going to accept your highest score, basically, of the SAT or the ACT, either one. Cal State universities and most privates they'll accept your best combination, the super score concept. So submit all your scores. Let the universities digest them, and they'll put whatever scores are going to put you in the best setting. That's what they're going to use. Please don't think they're going to look at a score that you thought wasn't a good score. They're not going to giggle at it. They're not going to average it. They're going to take the highest scores and put them together for you, whatever puts you in the best possible scenario. UCs, on the other hand, will take the highest score of one sitting, one test date. They don't do the super score concept. And avoid hiding the scores, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago. Don't try to hide scores, all right? Submit them all. Schools will take what's going to help you the most, because you never know if the school super scores, you might have the highest math on one date and the highest verbal on one date. They want to take those two different test scores from two different test dates and use them. And if you hid one of those scores and didn't send it, that would hurt you. Subject test, again, real quick, that's a 1 hour multiple choice subject test on one specific subject. Similar to an exam in your classes. That's what you want to picture it as. Many private universities are going to require subject tests. If they do, they usually require 2 subject tests. If you're going into a technical STEM major, at the UCs, they recommend it. And if you're private school going into a STEM major, very likely that they're going to want a math level 2 and one of the science subjects. You can take 3 subject tests in one sitting, one day, all right? But you can't take the regular SAT on the same day as you do subject. Reporting scores. Okay, this is kind of a very detailed topic. I'll just hit on these bullets really quickly. But again, go to the packet that we have posted. It gives you very, very good detail about this whole process. But the bottom line is this. You're going to self-report your scores on your college applications and your Common App. If you have scores already done and already established, you're going to put those scores on your college applications, all right? If you don't have scores yet, don't panic. You're going to put down that you're taking that test in November or you're taking that test in December. They'll know that the score is coming to them, all right? So don't panic if you don't have a score by the time you submit your application. They know that you're going to request your scores to be sent from the College Board or the ACT to be electronically sent from the test centers to the universities. That's going to happen. The College Board is different than the ACT group. The College Board, when you request your SAT scores to be sent to a college, the College Board sends every SAT you ever taken. They send like a transcript of every SAT test and every subject test you've ever sent. That is what goes to the university you're having them send it to. So send them all. That's a great way for the schools to get every score. Now the ACT, if you took the ACT, is different. You have to pick a specific date. Let's say you took the August ACT. When you go on to send that score, you have to say specifically, send the August ACT to these universities. Don't send a blanket transcript of every ACT. You've got to do them individually. It costs a little bit more that way, but that's their policy. If you're a student athlete, use 9999 as the SAT code when you're asking the SAT College Board to send your scores. That will send your scores to the NCAA Eligibility Center. And also, the Cal States have a very little special little code, 3594. If you put down that code as one of your colleges, it will be sent to every Cal State university. Can I take a look at the next slide, Mrs. Duane? All right, let's go back to the original slide. All right, so I wanted to make sure if I mentioned that in the next slide. The UCs and the Cal States, the great thing about it, if you apply to 3 UCs and 3 Cal States on their individual applications, if you then in turn ask College Board to send your scores to the Cal States, you can use that 3594 number. It will go to every Cal State. Or you can request it to be sent to one campus in the Cal States, and all the other Cal State campuses will have access to that score. You don't need to send it to every individual campus. That gets expensive. And the same philosophy with the UCs. If you just ask the SAT or ACT board to send your scores to one UC, all the other UCs have access to that score. Don't spend the money to send it to every individual UC or Cal State. Save some money for mom and pop.
Speaking of money, let's touch a little bit on financial aid. So like Mr. Patterson mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, our hope is that we're back in the fall. And if so, we plan to have a financial aid workshop for you guys in the month of September or October at DBHS, where we'll have a financial aid representative come out and talk specifically about the financial aid application, and do kind of question answer, go through the specifics of the application with you guys. It's been a great workshop in the past, and we hope that we have the opportunity to host it again in the fall. Another way to get your questions answered, a lot of different schools or campuses will use Cash for College, and it's open to anyone that can attend. So if you click on the link, once you have access to the PowerPoint Cash for College, it should give you a list of the different locations where they are hosting a Cash for College event and where you could go, what you need to bring with you. And at those events, typically there is an individual who can sit with you and help you fill out your application line by line and get your questions answered. Yes, Mr. Patterson.
I tell you what, I want to just put my 2 cents in for the Cash for College workshops. Being a father of a college freshman or sophomore now and a college freshman coming up, the Cash for College workshops, moms and dads, if you're watching this, please go onto their link and sign up for them. They'll be starting in October mostly, October, November, and they run all year long, but do it early, October and November. You want to do this application, the FAFSA, early. It is a godsend. You'll go there, you'll listen to a spiel about vocabulary of financial aid, and then you go to a computer lab and there's counselors walking around that are experts. They're professional financial aid counselors at community college and so on. Please take advantage of this Cash for College for the FAFSA that Mrs. Duenas is going to talk about right now.
So the applications, the FAFSA, you're going to hear us talk a lot about the FAFSA. That's the free application for federal student aid. We encourage every single one of you to submit an application to the FAFSA. And the reason being, some of you may think, well, you know, my parents' income is above what the threshold should be, and I'm not going to qualify for anything. we don't know. You know, there's a lot of schools that may still grant you merit-based aid or some other way to support your education there financially, and the only way they can do that is if they have your FAFSA. So you may be missing out on free money if you do not submit a FAFSA for a certain school. So just because, you know, your income or parents' income is high, it does not mean that you will not qualify for something at a particular school. It's better to take the chance and submit the application than to miss out on potential money towards your education. October 1st, that is when the FAFSA opens. So kind of when Mr. Patterson and I would talk about last year, how busy the fall semester of senior year is. As we're approaching the end of this presentation, I think you're starting to realize all the deadlines and openings that are gonna consume your life this fall. But October 1st, that's when the FAFSA opens. And we encourage you to start working on it as quickly as possible. Don't wait until the last minute. The priority deadline is March 2nd of 2021. We would certainly not encourage you to wait until the end of February, March 1st. Okay, the sooner you get it done, the better. And so the FAFSA will provide grants, and grants are like free money. It's scholarships essentially, and there's different criteria for receiving grants. Federal work study. You can make money at a campus by getting a job there, or loans. Okay, so student loans typically have a really low interest rate, and all of those things you can qualify for based on your FAFSA application.
Now, as far as the deadline, Mrs. Duenas,
Yes.
the priority deadline being March, she did a great job of telling you to apply early. Another reason why, for example, a rolling admission. If you apply to a rolling admission campus, if the very beginning of November, heck, they might be able to get back to you with an admissions decision in a week or two after you apply. If you haven't done your FAFSA and you're sitting around waiting till December or January, they won't know what kind of financial aid package to put together for you. So get it done so that when these colleges make decisions to admit you, your financial aid package is all tight, nicely done, so you can make a decision of what the best campus is for you.
Right. Okay, and then these are just some really helpful websites that we think would be a great resource for you as you prepare to fill out your FAFSA. So the first one is usa.gov/financial aid. The next one, 7 best resources for finding help in paying for college. And then the bottom one there, FinAid, financialaid.org. Just visiting those sites, going through them and seeing what's required of you when filling out your financial aid, what documents do you have to have ready and in order, information on the taxes, your tax information that you're going to use when submitting your application. Just great resources for you to go and get more information as to what the FAFSA is going to require of you. Now, the CSS profile. This is another piece of financial aid, but it's only required by very specific private schools. So this is not something, this is not a blanket financial aid thing that everybody has to do. Okay, so CSS profile. This is part of a different part of a financial aid piece that will give institutional aid. Okay, and you cannot get the institutional aid without filling out the CSS profile. The way to find out, we have that link right there. Okay, if you click on that link, it will tell you the schools that participate in the CSS profile. And you will know based on that list if the schools that you're applying to are going to ask that you do that. So it works in conjunction, I believe. You have to have FAFSA in order to utilize the CSS profile or get the benefits of both. But not every school is going to require it. You need to make sure that you are using it for specific schools, not for a blanket statement for all schools. So do your research. Deadlines are gonna vary by college, but just make sure that you click on that link when you have access to the PowerPoint to see if the schools that you're applying to
So if you
require
did like early decision and early action where you have to get the applications in earlier, you can see how important the FAFSA and the CSF profile will be. You've got to get those done earlier as well so that they can give you not just a decision on your admission status, but they can tell you what your money that they're going to provide for you is going to be. So you got to be on your A game here in the research of this. Letters of recommendation, we will hit on this very, very closely and in detail in our next video presentation, video message number 5, but we're going to touch on it very briefly here. Class of 21, you will be submitting to Mr. Patterson and Mrs. Duenas your senior profile packet. And that is your request of us to write a letter of recommendation for you. It's in addition to it, it's basically getting you ready and telling us you're applying to universities that are going to most likely be on the common application. So there's a very specific process for this. We'll hit on it in the next video message, but be prepared. That's how we're going to write your letter of recommendation. It's going to be prompted by the senior profile packet that you're going to give to us. I told you we're going to mention that again in detail in the next video message. What about, this is kind of my slides when I was putting this together, to kind of my catch-all to make sure that we didn't forget anything. The Diamond Bar High School, it's called the the CEEB code. That's our school code. That's what you use on SAT applications, ACT. Some colleges might ask for that. 050748 is for Diamond Bar High School. Our email address is there. Mr. Patterson, Mrs. Duenas, Mrs. Solis, who's working with our seniors in the Pathways Academy. Your legal name. We talk about this. I think we have each year a little bit, but still, there's going to be somebody that comes into my office or Mrs. Duenas' office and say, oh my God, I did something wrong. Use your legal name when you're applying to college. Use the name that's on your Diamond Bar transcript. Don't get fancy Dan and start using your nickname all of a sudden for your SAT or ACT applications and your college applications. They all have to be the same name. Picture 3 ships in the ocean. If you use different names, those ships are just going to go parallel to each other forever, and they're never going to meet. They'll just keep sailing right along. If you use the same name in all your applications, those ships will eventually get to the same ports of call. They'll be happy. So make sure you're using the same name across the board. All right, that's very important. What about continued? The workshops we mentioned earlier for Cal State and UC application workshops in September. We don't do a common app workshop. You're going to be doing that workshop on your own on those great links we already provided for you for the common app. Email addresses. You want, very possibly, this is just a suggestion. I'm not trying to get you to have more email accounts, but you might want to create a unique email account for the college admissions process. All right. You want your email to be very professional and appropriate. You don't want your dog's nickname or something silly there that the person's going to be looking at it like, heck, who owns this email? You want it to be a professional email, maybe your last name, first initial, whatever might work, so that you know that that email account is college and college stuff only, because you are going to have to check that email account daily. Once you start submitting application, it is critical. We're going to stress this to you many times. So get a good email address ready to go. Guys, this was a long one, but we knew it was going to be a long one because there's so many details. I don't know if I mentioned how many times. I think it's under 5. So I wanted to mention over 5 times. Please go onto the webpage and access the actual documents that has all of this information. Believe it or not, the actual physical document has more details than what we've spoken about in this presentation. Guys, again, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Duenas to do the final goodbye. Make this process enjoyable. You can make it enjoyable by starting early, taking your time. Enjoy the process. Don't make it stressful. Don't leave it to the end, or else you're going to make it stressful. Have fun with it.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, you guys, we've thrown a lot of information your way in this presentation and the last 3 others as well. We still have 1 more coming, but we hope that you're taking the time to watch these as they come out so it's not super overwhelming for you. But like Mr. Patterson said, do your research, enjoy the process, and take your time, ask questions if you need to. We're happy to answer them for you. But we hope this video has been useful and beneficial for you.
Go Brahmas.
All right.
Be good.
Bye, guys.